Take two. Welcome to another episode of Movie Hour. I'm your host, Vivek.
Drawn.
Vashish.
Vishish.
Today we have Wonder Woman. So I will go ahead and say I was pretty disappointed in the movie. I don't know about you guys.
Straight to the point.
Yeah.
I wasn't disappointed with it. I thought it was good. It wasn't the greatest movie, or it wasn't like the best thing I've seen, but I thought it was okay. Yeah.
I think comparing it to the first movie, I think Wonder Woman 1 is a lot better than this
I think
one.
so. Yeah.
And I know that it can be said that it's unfair to compare it to the sequel to the first movie, but like what else are you gonna compare it to? Like everything has to
exactly.
have like a frame of reference. All movies have a frame of
Yeah.
reference.
It's the first one, right?
Yeah. So you're expecting it to follow up. The issue I had with this movie is compared to the first one, the tone is just drastically different. And not in a way that I appreciated,
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
and like here I'm trying to think of like a good example. We'll use Thor as an example. So Thor and Wonder Woman, they're very similar, fish out of water,
Yeah.
children of gods,
That's
and
true, you're right.
in like the man's world or whatever, right?
Yeah.
And so the thing about Thor, at first they were trying to figure out that tone, but then they hit Thor Ragnarok and they reinvented the tone altogether. It's a lot lighthearted, a lot more silly.
Yeah.
And I felt like this was their Thor Ragnarok in a way, but it didn't succeed because it wasn't fun silly. To me, it felt campy. Like it felt like
yeah.
It felt cartoony to me.
Yeah.
so
Whereas
cartoony.
like Ragnarok changed the tone up, but it did it in a good non-cartoony way where it's still grounded and still
Yeah.
fun. But this movie just went straight comic book cartoon.
It didn't feel
Yeah.
cheesy.
Yeah.
It
right?
didn't feel cheesy because they
Yeah.
also set it in another world, and they'd also established this sort of jokey, like more lighthearted tone in like previous movies with Guardian of the Galaxy and such. Like this just felt just so like out of the way to me compared to everything else.
Yeah. She's probably trying to be similar to like those movies, like a little bit like you said, Ragnarok or whatever. Maybe that's what she was doing. Maybe, and I guess she didn't pull it off as she wanted it to be. Like you said, we watched the first one today, the first Wonder Woman movie today, and it's completely different. The second movie is so different, like the tone and all that, from the first movie to this one is way different. I just seems like she's trying something different with this movie, especially when every DC movie is so freaking dark. You know what I mean? Look at all the Zack Snyder movies and everything. So maybe she was trying something new, but maybe it just didn't come out as she
I guess
hoped
like
it.
because DC has the reputation of being so dark, they're like seems like they're purposely counteracting it with if you've seen like the Aquaman movie or Shazam, like those movies are also more funny and like lighthearted. I feel as if Shazam especially.
Yeah.
I watched that one more recently. For this, like once again, it wasn't necessarily because they were trying to be lighthearted that like it didn't work for me. For me, it was more so it was so different from what I was already being given, and then the execution was so poor. And like I definitely like wrote a bunch of
you got notes.
I wrote a bunch of notes because like
notes.
I was watching it and I was just like, what's
I see you
going
have
on?
CG on there. That's what I was going to talk about.
Okay, so that's actually where I want to start. Like where I immediately started checking out. I was like, what is this? Is when I'm looking at the CG and I'm like, this looks like a cartoon. Like all like the swinging where she like essentially becomes Spider-Man.
I
I was just
didn't
like,
get-
The CG effect didn't work sometimes to me, in my opinion.
Well,
It looked
yeah.
too like
CG 's
rubber.
still bad.
rubbery,
Yeah.
Yeah, I told when I was watching the movie, I told Vivek, she's Wonder Woman and Spider-Man. That's what she is.
Dude, she swung off lightning.
Oh yeah, that was my biggest gripe with the movie. I think one of my
That was
biggest
so
gripe
gross.
was the lightning.
It was kind
It's
of
like,
funny.
how does that work?
I don't
Like,
know.
what do you grab onto you?
I'm guessing because
She's
she's
grabbing onto
kind of
anything.
maybe it's like a gothic kind of thing. Like she's
There was
kinda
plenty of
technology.
suspension of disbelief
Yeah.
going on in that movie. I thought the CGI was like very awkward.
Yeah.
And there was some parts too where it was just like
yes,
almost
I
as
know.
if they were in on how bad like the CGI ended up looking.
There's a lot of moments where they kind of you can tell they were on ropes and they're just being flung back.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I almost wish that like if they were going to do so much of the like Wonder Woman Spider-Man swing thing, I wish that maybe we had seen the rope look more realistic. And not in the sense that like, a real rope, she's actually doing practical effects with it, but like every time she uses the rope, it glows
Yeah.
and it has like this yellow like MS Paint sort of like
it's 'cause
aesthetic.
It's too bright. You don't see
Yeah.
you don't see a
Yeah.
texture of a real rope
Ex-
underneath it.
Exactly.
It's just a yellow glow.
And it just makes it look as if it's in post someone stitched together lines where something's supposed to grab onto something, but it doesn't appear that way.
Yeah.
If the glowing effect of the rope had been used sparingly, like when she's actively trying to get the truth out of someone, you know how
Yeah.
like that's like the whole thing.
Yeah.
Like then at least it's going, oh, it glows when she does this. Not the use of the rope all times is this weird yellow line across the screen.
Yeah.
And also, how long is this rope? Because it's like
It
always
gets-
changing in
it gets
size to me.
longer,
And
yeah.
and that was also like why I was just like, well, I don't
Dude,
know
she
if I
reached a
like
plane
that.
flying in the sky with the rope.
I thought she was flying too.
Yeah.
Like when she was in
Oh
the
yeah,
air.
how do you guys feel
Actually,
about
missed
the
that.
introduction of her flying? Like
Yeah.
I didn't get it at
Uh,
all.
Is
So-
her gliding or
I
is she
wasn't sure
flying?
if she learned how to fly or
Okay,
so-
or if she just used the rope.
It was
Yeah.
gliding because they had that like very on the nose foreshadowing moment where like the guy's like, yeah, flying, it's
Yeah.
incredible. You just let go and you let the air take you, and it's like really weird conversation.
I see.
And like I guess that was them going, oh, this is what she's doing, because they even have like his voiceover of that
Mhm.
scene playing again.
Mm.
I didn't really hate the flying. I actually in a way liked the scene itself, the way it was constructed. It, you know, she jumps up and she's let go of Steve. Was it Steve Trevor?
Yeah.
She's
Yeah.
let go of him. Now she's just kind of allowing herself to be free. It was a very sweet moment, and one of the few moments in the movie where I didn't see myself kind of checking out of it, going, "Ugh, this is a little much." It was just like,
It's a good moment.
yeah, it was
Letting go of Steve.
it was sweet,
Yeah.
but like
Steve was a good part of the movie.
I wasn't always a big fan of how it looked. I think her flying pose kind
Yeah.
of
The flying pose is weird.
like the you know like one arm out, like
Yeah.
it doesn't look
yeah.
cool.
Mm.
I can give the moment credit, but I think the execution was kind of poor in how it looked, in my opinion, because I couldn't tell if she was actually flying and gliding. And I think if she used her rope and did the whole spinning thing like a propeller to
Oh.
go forward,
Yeah.
and then it was
Mm.
like for the entire time, I would like it better than her just using it once and then she looks like she's flying.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's even more weird because in the movies that take place after, she never flies again.
Yeah.
Like, she doesn't fly, as far as I know. She doesn't fly in Justice League or in Batman versus Superman.
Yeah.
So
Oh, you're right.
just
And this is
shoot, yeah.
84.
and this
so,
is
right.
84.
Yeah.
So it seems like
Yeah.
a valuable power that she just kind of gave up on.
Yeah.
Like,
Because you saw
It's
kinda
in
weird.
Batman vs Superman, she was jumping far. She wasn't flying.
It's like
Yeah.
people don't watch their follow-up movies to like go back and make sure everything is correct.
it's like they're they don't seem to.
They
Like,
don't.
it seems as if the DC strategy is to create these kind of independent movies that are loosely connected just
Mm.
from namesake. Like they're like,
Yeah,
oh,
yeah,
you're in this movie and you're in that movie,
Yeah.
but like not because they have some sort of cinematic thread to them. It just
Yeah.
kind of feels like this was its own thing. And what I'm sure some people will appreciate that they didn't connect it to the overarching DC universe in any way. I was expecting some sort of
Mm.
post-credit thing where it's like, oh, look, there's, I don't know, the Flash being born because he's like young or something. I don't know.
Yeah.
But there's none of that. So
Yeah.
I think this movie will be good for some people because you can just watch it as is. I think for people who are invested in the DCEU, they might be more disappointed.
Mm.
Yeah.
That
Well,
was-
yeah,
that was so
I do
long.
like DC. I wasn't disappointed with the movie, but I do think it could have been a lot better than what we got. Especially like a lot of movies, so much hype, and then you see it, and it's like, oh, okay, it's okay,
Do you think the hype played into people not liking this as much?
probably. Yeah.
Actually,
was
I
hype
think
around
I
this
would
movie?
I would disagree because I think I went in looking forward to this movie thinking it would be like I hadn't had high expectations,
Mm.
but I don't think my high expectations contributed to me not liking the movie. I think the movie missed a lot of marks. It did do some stuff well,
Mm.
but I think it could have been a lot better in some regards. And I think they dropped the ball compared to the other.
Yeah,
movies.
I was actually excited to see this movie because I do like the first Wonder Woman
Yeah.
movie, and I like Patty Jenkins. Like I've only seen like one movie with her, which is Monster, before she did anything. So I wanted to see what she could do. And from the first movie, I think she did a good job with the whole tone, and I like the whole World War One thing. That was nice. So this one, like I guess maybe I'm in it now. I don't know, but I like it. I thought it was fun. But it was so different from the first movie. I think, I guess I didn't get a lot of more of the dark stuff that I was kind of hoping for from DC.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah, they did play it too light.
Yeah.
They almost feel like it was an overcorrection to what they had already been establishing because they're so nervous of the reputation that they have that they're like, do something different. And it wasn't bad because it was different. It was bad because it just doesn't fit for me with everything else.
Yeah.
And then there were just like little nitpicks. I wrote a bunch of stuff because I was just writing notes as I was watching it.
Yeah.
I was already nervous about the film with its two openings. So
yeah.
there is an entirely useless
What was the second opening?
the second opening is when she stops the heist in the mall,
The mall
which
scene.
which is helpful
Oh.
because
Oh,
you know
yeah.
it establishes that they have all this stuff.
Yeah.
Blah
My
blah
friend
blah.
actually drove by that set.
Really?
They were filming in a Jersey mall, and he was on vacation.
Oh no,
wow.
he could have
Something.
been in there and
Yeah,
been one of the
Yeah.
the bystanders who
Gotta
were
stand
awkwardly
out.
like smiling.
Yeah.
Like it was just very awkward. I thought that scene. I actually wrote
was-
down no because there's a
Dude,
part where
I wanted to remember mentioning that. That was
Which
so
part was that?
bad. Why did they leave that in?
Wait, what was that?
there's a part at the very
The guy that did
during
the heist.
the heist, one of the robbers, after the guy goes AWOL and he's like holding the little girl over like the edge like he's Michael Jackson or something. There's like the part where his buddy is like, don't do it.
The
No.
guy cried, right? Okay, I remember now,
And it's
yeah.
like it was such a weird delivery that I was like, are they in on this? Like, do they
Yeah.
know that this is like it has to be a joke? Like it can't
I
be.
actually, for a
just
second, thought it was like
included
a
in the movie.
commercial or something. Like, I wasn't sure if it was like
That it was
leading
like
into
a-
a change.
You think that's what
Yeah.
they're
It's like a
going for
commercial.
because you know, like '80s, like a lot of 80s movies and TV shows are very kind of cheesy, right?
Well,
You
that
think
was-
that's what they're going for because it's '84. It's in
And
the title.
that's what I thought at a point.
Yeah.
I
One
mean,
thing I
it
wanna-
could be, but at the same time, like, we had no prior expectations that it would be this light when you're coming off of Wonder Woman 1, where it's more
Yeah,
gritty.
like World War One. That's
Yeah.
freaking crazy, right?
Yeah.
And then that's
Steve
something that's
Trevor
where they
exploding,
kind of
like-
missed everybody else because we're not sure if this movie's supposed to be cartoony and like this or
And that's why I said like
Yeah.
because it's so different and it's not connected to the overall. If you view this in a vacuum, perhaps there's more that you can gain from it as compared to trying to fit it into the DCEU and enjoying it in that capacity.
yeah.
I've never been a fan of the DCU either way, but even this movie as its own thing, I think it just kind of falls flat for me. That's also partly because I don't think Gal Gadot's performance is very good. I think she has an essence about her
Yeah.
I have
and
to
like
watch it
a
again.
presence
Yeah.
in which I appreciate her as Wonder Woman. Is very regal, very put together.
She looks
But-
like it.
She
Yeah,
looks
she
the
looks like
part,
it, yeah.
but like then when it comes to giving me more emotion, especially like think of like the end speech she has and
Yeah.
such.
And
I'm
those
just
are the
I
like-
feel like they're you know how a lot of movies that have a conclusion where it's like a big fight scene.
Yeah,
It seems like in her movies it's always like a monologue that like lets the bad guy know they're wrong. You know what I mean? Instead of it being like a fight
That's what
fight.
she did twice. Yeah.
Yeah, she
that's-
did it twice.
There's
It's
a
like,
lot
hey.
of that. Yeah, there's
But
a
yeah,
lot of
like-
that.
shouldn't do
Going
that.
back to, like,
I
her
just get it. I
performance,
just think that's what she's all
yeah.
about. That's,
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
what I
Yeah.
assume.
But yeah, going back to her performance, I think
Wait,
she did have some marks where it's like her performance kind of missed a little bit or wasn't executed properly. But I think she did do a lot better job than Wonder Woman 1 because I think she was still new to it, and then she could tell she was still fitting that role in. Whereas in '84, I think she did a better job fitting in as Wonder Woman.
I think she knows the character more
Yeah.
by this
Yeah.
point. Like Wonder Woman is, she's a royal presence. She comes and she knows what she's about. She knows what she can do. She's not there to like intimidate anybody. She's not like, she doesn't have that factor of Batman where it's like, I got to put some fear into you, or Superman where it's like, I'm just the good guy and I have to be there. She just
Yeah.
kind of has like this, like, look, this is the way things have to be.
she's more
And-
caring, you know. like,
Yeah.
she's more yeah.
But like I still feel as if that didn't necessarily translate to any sort of charisma, and I think that was actually part of the reason why they may have included Steve Trevor so much into this, just giving her someone to like work off of
Yeah.
in sort of like a scene partner.
Exactly.
And I didn't like Steve Trevor's inclusion in this movie because I feel as if he was essentially just that, like someone that she can go back and forth with if we needed exposition. Like, this is something that needs to happen. Hey, Steve Trevor, blah, 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 say your thing. And then he was then used also as a sacrifice in this movie in the exact
Again.
same way.
Dude, that was my biggest problem again with this movie is he played the same role
Yeah,
again
he actually
in
did
this
again,
movie as just a sacrifice.
Except
and,
he didn't go out with a bang. He just
Yeah.
faded.
Yeah.
and-
Yeah.
again,
And
he
off
realized-
screen too.
yeah,
Like
Yeah.
she's like, "Oh, I gotta go.
Behind
I
the
love
wall,
you."
yeah.
I can't believe they
Yeah.
didn't tell each other "I love you" face to face. They
They
just
should
ended
have
up
done
walking
something
away.
like that.
Yeah.
at
I
least, you know?
expected like him to walk out as the normal guy,
Yeah,
like
yeah.
from behind the post, and be
Mm.
like, "What the hell?
Yeah,
Like, what's
yeah,
going
yeah,
on
that
here?"
was,
Like,
a funny moment. But also, I don't get why like this movie's kind of messed up. Where it's like the thing brought Steve Rogers back in another guy's body. Like, why not just bring Steve Trevor back as himself in his own body?
I
Yeah, I
not
wonder
in
why they
somebody
did it
else's
like that. I
body.
it made
figure-
me question the rules of how the gemstone works.
Yeah.
in that way.
I
For
don't
real.
know. I don't know. It was
To me, it didn't make sense. Like,
Well-
you can give all this ability, but you put his consciousness back in
In
somebody
another
else's body.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it was a little strange. I
And she was
I was
okay
trying to
with it,
figure
too.
out if it was gonna be like he was gonna be some sort of I don't know, manifestation that just conjured up and appeared before her or something.
Yeah.
But like it was strange to see that he was just another guy.
Yeah.
I don't think that was bad. I just wish I knew the other guy, or I wish
Yeah.
there was an implication that, well, because Steve Trevor's taken this guy's place, his family's concerned and looking for him,
Yeah.
and like her needing to let go of Steve was motivated by that, like realizing that
Hmm.
by asking for Steve to be here, that she's essentially taking away a life of someone else, and that
Yeah.
never
But
that
yeah,
never
That would
occurred.
They
have
never
made a lot
dug
more
into anything
sense.
like that.
Yeah.
That would have been better than
That's
That
why
would've
I-
been
that's why I
better.
didn't get- yeah.
It was she ultimately had to let go of it because she was losing her powers,
Hmm.
but there was no sort of
I
I feel like she
visual
would've-
distinction
honestly,
between her not having powers and
And-
having it.
Exactly.
Like,
There's no like understanding of like how it works, the gemstone, because I was thinking too, like when the cat lady, I forget what her name is. right?
Cheetah.
Yeah.
Cheetah, yeah.
It's-
When she wanted to be
Sorry, just a
No,
no,
it's okay.
character.
when she wanted to be like guy like that, so I figured because she wanted to be like her, that was the reason why her powers were like draining or something.
That's also what I was
But
thinking.
it was to do with Steve Trevor.
Yeah.
That was the reason, because her love for him, wanting him back, is the reason why she was losing her powers.
Yeah,
Right.
and
It's
it was
pretty
it
random.
was weird because
So-
I was thinking that too. I was
Yeah.
thinking maybe she's slowly becoming Wonder Woman,
Yeah.
Yeah.
and then Wonder Woman's lessening or like no longer being her, and she's becoming
Mm.
the Cheetah character.
It's a
But
cop out, I think.
it was-
for having Steve Trevor to be the reason, let go of him, she gets her power back. If it was,
it was a cop out because they just
Yeah.
wanted her to have this big sacrifice
Yeah.
yeah,
that wasn't necessary.
Yeah.
that wasn't
but-
necessary.
At the same time, she didn't even do the sacrifice. It was Steve Trevor again doing the sacrifice.
Yeah,
'cause
he-
he knew
Yeah.
what was right and what he had to do.
Yeah, she's
exactly.
doing the right thing
Yeah.
for her.
Yeah.
You know.
And it's weird because like these moments come in this movie, right, where I'm supposed to have this big I guess I don't know how to
Like
describe it, emotional
yeah.
reaction, or like where I'm like, oh yeah. It's
Yeah.
like it sucks that had to happen, but
Yeah.
like it had to happen.
You
And every
feel
time
like
it come up, I was just like, why? or it's like, this is silly. Like
Yeah.
one of the big parts for me was at the end with Alistair, the
Mm.
dad and his
Oh,
son,
yeah.
right? So I hated
Yeah.
that
Wait,
son character so
Wait,
much.
before we get there, right? Does this movie really even have a villain? Is there? He didn't
No.
even do anything that bad.
The
Like,
gemstone
that
was
crazy?
the villain.
The
I
The
guess.
gemstone
Yeah.
was a villain. Yeah.
Is
That's
that?
fine.
It
How-
sucks.
Is that entertaining?
Yeah.
Yeah, the problem I have with DCU movies is the villains, and that like Cheetah, I don't think we should have been included in the movie.
Dude, what's
Yeah.
useless?
Useless.
Entirely
Like the only
useless.
She was
good
a
DC
bad
villain.
villain. Pedro Pascal had some motivation, but at the same time, nothing bad happened to him at the end. He kind of just renounced all of it, and then he went
And the thing is,
away.
he put his face on national TV everywhere. Like, this dude is going to jail forever.
Yeah.
Oh, like your dad's a bad man. And it was like,
Yeah.
that's all we got. And I was like,
Yeah.
oh, okay. So
Yeah,
I guess he
yeah,
learned his
we should-
lesson. Like,
Yeah.
We had
like-
no reason to believe he was a bad guy except for when he started, making all those deals.
But-
Before then, we don't really know.
And I
his
guess-
by
background.
all accounts, he
Yeah.
was a good guy.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
He was trying
who's
to be successful and make it for his son.
Yeah,
Oh,
he-
yeah.
I
like,
wish they
'cause-
showed a little bit of that in the beginning. So you know how the end where it showed what he was remembering about himself.
yeah, you know.
At least showed us that in the beginning, so we know like where this guy is mentally. You know
And he's not like because he's portrayed as like kind of like a stereotype of a used car salesman type of guy,
yeah.
where it's like, I'm trying to sell you an idea that doesn't actually exist, and I'm taking advantage of you. When in reality, it's not that he's taking advantage of anyone. He himself is so disadvantaged that this is his only way of succeeding. And so I'm like, okay, I can sympathize with this character, and I also really liked his performance.
Yeah,
I think
me
he,
too.
Yeah,
he did
I think
great.
He, I think he had the
Yeah.
best performance in the entire movie.
Hands
You
down.
can definitely
Yeah.
tell he was enjoying himself.
Yeah.
Like,
He was
having
enjoying
a
it.
good time.
He was
Yeah.
enjoying it, especially at the end.
Oh,
too.
the beginning and you said the end.
At the end, I thought
Oh,
at the
yeah.
end. What is in the beginning?
Oh, in the beginning, like this is when he showed up, when he was like having this persona of being, like you said, a used car salesman. But he was like really enjoying himself. Like when he first showed up, he's always like, "Yeah, I'm this guy."
Oh,
This guy,
yeah,
this
he's
The
guy.
like-
line, yeah.
Yeah,
That was actually
Yeah.
pretty nice.
that was
yeah.
fun, right? Like he was
Yeah.
having a good
Yeah,
time.
I actually laughed at that.
I
Yeah.
actually was a little confused on why she was so averse to him at first. Like
Mm.
when he shows up and he does the thing, like, you know, the point, like,
Yeah.
on this guy. She didn't seem interested. Her excuse was like, you know, I don't have a TV. But she didn't seem to be feeling him at all. And I was kind of confused on what he did that was so shady or seedy to her.
Yeah.
Or if she just
Yeah.
has, like, a natural intuition about who is sus. Like,
Yeah, maybe.
Yes, or
Because usually
maybe she doesn't like salespeople. Like, most
Yeah,
people don't
right.
like salesmen.
Yeah,
so,
that could also be it.
Yeah.
I'm,
Yeah, usually she's nice to everybody. So
yeah,
Yeah,
and that was
that
what was
was
confusing
weird,
to me
yeah.
because
Yeah.
she kind of always appears as like, oh, hi, nice to meet you. I hope you're doing well. Unless
Yeah.
you're having like a gun to a kid or like, you know,
she read
something
too
like
far
that.
into the script. She already knew he was a bad guy.
It's like, so, like, the villain hasn't been
Yeah.
introduced
They
yet,
probably
right?
felt out of order. Did the whole fight scene in the end, and it was like, oh damn.
It's like, yeah, you don't trust this guy. It's like,
Yeah.
well, I just met him,
Yeah.
right? Like,
Yeah. But he was having a great time at the end when he got corrupted by the gemstone.
and he was just
Oh,
laughing.
yeah.
I thought, like,
Yeah.
Randomly bleeding.
I'm pretty
Yeah.
sure I wrote like a line here. I wrote hammy ending. He's just evil shouting and laughing.
Yeah.
Like,
That's something you would see in like an older movie from like the early 2000s or 90s.
It-
Like a villain like that.
yeah, it was
Or
also
like-
weird because
yeah.
he says for her to join. He's like, "You could have joined me,"
Yeah.
but I was like,
So-
"That wasn't an
yeah.
offer earlier in
No,
the
no, it
movie."
wasn't.
And what would
Yeah.
she do if he joined you? Like,
Yeah.
what's
And the rules say you can only have one wish.
She used her wish.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
what is she gaining from this partnership? I also had an issue with him as a villain because for the most of the movie he's just like down in his luck and then he's granting people wishes. So he's
Yeah.
kind of doing a
That's
good
what I'm
thing.
saying. Like,
Yeah.
does
Like,
the movie
but-
really have a villain?
Yeah.
He's not. He's
I
giving.
guess-
He is
yeah.
taking something from them, but he's not like causing a lot of harm. To be honest,
Like it just
Yeah.
it was happenstance that
It
all
was-
that
yeah.
stuff happened. Like it was
wasn't
just
intentional.
a
like-
domino effect of, oh well, because people are greedy with their wishes, that it ultimately became like this big war of nukes, which to me was kind of confusing. I was like a
Yeah.
little confused on
this movie has
like-
a really message, like an overall big message that I can't even figure out. To be honest.
yeah, like because there's this
guess
like
power
the
corrupts.
prince.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, I guess, but
Right?
the prince has a claim to a throne and then that causes like all these people to lose their water and like that was a big plot point for some reason and
Yeah.
then like there's just tension. I was just confused by
I think
all
it's
of
like a
that.
whole like cause and effect kind of thing,
But-
where it's like you grant them this wish that they want, but then the effect is like all these other things that happen, and it's like you can
Probably
grant
is
a
that people
wish,
are greedy.
but sometimes some of the wishes aren't like the best because they lead to this.
Yeah.
This effect.
Yeah.
I thought it
You
was
know-
like a little silly too how he was going about these wishes and stuff, because if he has the ability to grant any wish and all he needs to say is "but in return I do this," like why not just wish for success and then that be the end? Because he did wish for a success,
Yeah.
but then he went to that guy and he's like, "I want all your oil." Why do you need the oil if you have all the success? Like
yeah,
the oil was just for the success that you weren't getting at first,
Mm.
but if you have the success now, you don't need anything else.
Yeah.
So like whatever
Maybe-
he does will be
yeah.
successful.
Yeah,
Right?
like that's what he wished for. He's like, don't you wish for this company to be successful? And sorry, I keep
Yeah.
doing his voice, but it's an infectious voice. I love it.
He does a good job.
Yeah, but he wishes for that, and it happens. Then everyone's wanting to put their money in, blah blah blah,
Mm.
and it's like, well, you win. Like
Yeah.
that's the end.
maybe it can be
Kept wanting more.
yeah, maybe it can be that as he grants more wishes, he gets more corrupted by the gemstone.
Yeah, that's I got it
and
right.
leads to
Like
it.
because
because he
like,
started like
a god that
Yeah.
like what is it put a curse or whatever.
I thought that was gonna be the villain. I thought like
Yeah.
it was gonna pull like a Wonder Woman, like the first one,
Do you know
and
the
then
god? Yeah.
suddenly like
Yeah.
this guy appears, and
Yeah.
now it's a big CGI fight.
Yeah.
I guess they don't want to do that again.
Yeah, if they did it again, I think that'll be a lot
I'm sure they
worse.
planned on it, and
Yeah.
then at the end, I'm like, no, we can't do that. Let her fight Cheetah.
Maybe
Yeah,
Let her fight
that's-
Cheetah.
That's probably why it
Because
feels
when
like
they did
this.
the whole expedition dump with the Mayan guy, and then she was like, "Oh my god, it's a god again." I'm like, again, it's a god.
Yeah.
Is a
Yeah.
god gonna appear and do a whole fight?
To me,
Yeah, right.
like that was probably what the intention was at first,
Yeah.
and then they switched it to Cheetah
Yeah.
because Cheetah's iconic in Wonder Woman lore. But like, I didn't think Cheetah worked, and I
Yeah.
thought it would be good to pivot to her. Like,
Mm.
she's a big part of this movie.
Yeah.
I do like Kristen Wiig. I liked her performance.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I didn't like the character.
Mm.
Because it is just like Electro in Amazing
Yeah.
Spider-Man 2.
It is.
It's
yeah.
just like, I'm a fumbling klutz who drops all my stuff. And
Yeah.
Oh,
And,
you're right.
My
That's a
motivation,
good
like,
comparison.
when
Yeah.
you give the DC villain or like any villain motivation where it's like you're a klutz, nobody likes me or anything, and then I'm bad now.
Mm.
I don't think
Yeah.
that's a very good motivation. To be a
No.
villain, and
Yeah.
it's where it falls.
And it's-
like it's been done before too, because in Iron Man 3, same thing.
oh yeah, it was an
Yeah,
Iron Man
it's
It's
true.
the
3.
first
Man
movie
3.
of the Iron Man series.
Oh,
Yeah.
Yeah.
It-
Like,
it's
Amazing
the-
Spider-Man, same thing,
Yeah.
and it's not good.
Yeah.
So it's like you can't do that as a motivation. for a
because
villain.
it doesn't
It's been
feel
done many
real.
times,
Yeah.
and not only in superhero movies, but in other kind of like kind of properties, whatever.
It's like, I'm a loser, and
Yeah.
because I'm a loser, now I'm bad because
Yeah.
people.
All moral just goes out the window, but
It's a
in
big
reality,
thing.
it shouldn't.
Yeah.
yeah,
doesn't
it's a
really
big
make
thing.
sense.
Like in true crime movies or whatever, there's always like somebody's been bullied or whatever, and then they become a bad guy.
Yeah.
So it's been done to death, like
And-
a lot.
And I can accept that as a storyline if it was portrayed in a way that wasn't, I drop my papers
Yeah,
and
I
guys
hate
don't
that.
think I'm attractive.
I hate
like,
that so much.
you know, it just, because it's the most shallow version of that concept,
Yeah.
it's the most boring version for
Yeah,
me
and
to
it's
watch.
not, to me, it's not
Like,
really realistic. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
if somebody drops something or whatever, it's a big I think people would try to help.
Yeah,
most
right?
people.
Most people would.
She's a coworker. She's
Yeah.
like
a coworker.
She works here at this
Yeah.
place.
and they don't know her in the beginning. Like she's like, "Oh, I hired you. You hired this woman.
Yeah,
you
you
don't know
hired
who
him.
she is."
Yeah.
And nobody
Like-
nobody likes her or thinks she's not pretty, but I'm like, you're
She's-
pretty.
Yeah,
even though, like,
she
pretty,
looks.
like,
She has glasses.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
that's all it is.
she's
The
she's a
different
fairly
hair,
attractive woman.
Right?
Like
Take the glass away and just do her hair different. It's the same woman. She looks the same.
Yeah.
there was actually one part with her. There, like the entire construction of her character to me was questionable. But
Mm.
then there's this line where her morality is questioned, where it's like, is she a bad guy when she beats up the guy who literally was just trying to rape her?
Mm.
And I was like, why is it now trying to present this as if she's doing something wrong or she crossed the line? Like,
Yeah.
he actively again tried to
Yeah.
get her.
Yeah, and she's
And then
defending herself.
She defended herself and
Mm.
beat him up. Sure, she kicked him a few times, but it wasn't like she like ripped his jaw off or something. Like she just
Yeah.
kicked him into the street, and then she was just standing there. It's like, I can do this all day, but she doesn't. She
Yeah.
stopped there.
She stops.
And then her buddy that she gave
The homeless
food to
guy,
that one
yeah.
time.
Yeah.
It's like, what are you doing?
Yeah.
Like what? Are you serious?
Yeah.
I'm actually protecting myself from this guy who tried raping me yesterday.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
He just tried again too.
Yeah, and he just tried it again.
Yeah.
Oh, all right.
Yeah.
But like the
She
movie
didn't even
presents
say
it
it.
with like this very ominous like tone and music underscore, and I'm like, why is it trying to make it seem like she just crossed the line, or like this
Yeah.
is her descent into being a villain? She
Right.
doesn't descend into being a villain at all until she tries to stop Wonder Woman from capturing
Yeah. Pedro Pascal.
Pedro Pascal's character,
Yeah.
Max Gold. Max
Yeah.
Gold.
Max Gold, right? And
Yeah.
apparently that guy, when the first time that guy tried to attack her, right, it was only a few steps away from where the homeless guy was on the bench.
Yeah,
Right?
so he would
So
go
this dude has to know or seen this guy sometime in his life that know he's a piece of shit.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
If
So-
anything, he's like, "What are you doing? Why didn't you tell me? Like, I would have helped out, bro."
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
it's a bit of a weird question for me, where I'm like, well, why is she the bad guy? Because she wants to prevent Wonder Woman from reversing this this wish that made her into a stronger, more confident person.
Mm.
And I think that motivation is very honorable, but then it's weird that she's now supposedly an awful person because she's trying to prevent it. I think there is a better way that you could have connected those two characters. They had already
Yeah.
had like a romantic connection
Yeah.
early into the movie. So if they had kept those two together and the rise to power was them sharing it rather than Cheetah kind of only appearing in the movie randomly when Wonder Woman would call her on the phone,
Yeah.
then at least the motivation of, well, I want to keep this here and or keep these powers of confidence or whatever and protect this guy would have been more justified.
Mm.
It's just kind of strange that she appears again in the movie, fights Wonder Woman, beats Wonder Woman.
Pedro Pascal, that guy. Yeah.
Yeah,
okay,
and
gotcha.
in defense of Pedro.
Mm.
And I just think, how did she even know he was at the White House? Because she
Yeah,
hasn't
yeah.
been
She came out of
involved, you know?
Yeah.
And like, how does she know that their plot is to stop him in order to reverse all these bad things that are happening? Because she wasn't involved.
Yeah.
Yeah.
She kind of just pops up in
That's
the
so
movie
true.
sometimes.
Oh,
For
when
a
it's
purpose, and that's it.
when it's
Yeah.
convenient.
When it's
right?
convenient.
Yeah.
And like, she pops up when they go to the shaman guy.
Yeah.
Like she's there and then she leaves because she's like, what? We can't get rid of this.
Yeah.
No way. And like that was kind of the end. If there was supposed to be the fight, it should have been then. Like if there was supposed to be like this, no, I'm not gonna let you do this. Her confrontation with Wonder Woman would have been more justified in that moment as compared to in defense of this guy that you guys weren't even connected for like the past like hour of the movie. It was just one
Yeah.
of those weird things where it's like, doesn't work for
Yeah.
me.
No,
I
I
know,
know.
yeah.
I
While we're
agree.
still on Cheetah, I think we could pivot also to the CG fight at the end.
There's not even a
again,
whole lot of fighting in the movie to
I-
begin with.
I hate the fact
Yeah.
that they were always dangling on the wire. And
Yeah.
the
Oh.
thing. Like, it
Also,
wasn't.
I hate-
I
What's
just
wrong
don't
with
think the fighting is very quality.
It was
Yeah,
bad.
it was
It
bad,
was
yeah.
bad. It was
And
bad.
then again, they do it in a dark scene because they have to hide the,
The
CG.
CGI.
CGI.
Because it's not very good.
They couldn't have just put some practical effects on her
No.
because
Yeah,
her
for real.
face was clearly makeup. It wasn't like she was half cheetah.
Mm.
It was just like, you know, two like little eyeliner things here, a dot dot dot.
Yeah.
And I was just like, well, if you're doing that and all she has is just fur, you could put her in some fur.
Yeah.
Like you guys can
Yeah.
do that. Like that's practical effects that we figured out back before the 80s,
Yeah.
like when this
Yeah.
movie is set, like, and you could have easily have succeeded.
Yeah.
And maybe if you didn't want to do that because I don't know, Kristen Wiig can't do the fight choreography,
Mm.
just make it a different stunt double because
Yeah,
she's in all this
exactly.
makeup anyway.
Yeah, so
So
you can hide it easily.
Yeah.
You hide it easily.
and it was just it was
Cat
a,
strike again. Maybe cats. Maybe it was the same kind of something because
they had the same same graphic artist. They're like, hey
Yeah.
bro, that cat movie didn't work. You guys want to help out here? And
This time I got it. I didn't make it
Yeah,
work.
Use assets.
Yeah.
it's like, oh, why is the scene so dark? Oh, well, it didn't look good, so
Yeah.
we had no choice but to do that.
Yeah.
That
Like,
was, ugh.
and all the action movies we've seen with like the Bourne movies or Mission Impossible or John Wick, really a good hand-to-hand fight with them two could have been better than all that swinging around.
It
You know
was
what I mean?
awful. I didn't.
Yeah.
It was almost to me incomprehensible what I was like really looking at because
Yeah.
they were doing a lot of like quick cuts too, and
Mm.
she's like sometimes she's just running across the wall, and
Mm.
I was just like, why is all this happening? It could have just been a like really quick, clean fight. She has claws. It would have been nice to see her like really dig in and swiping at her, and I
Mm.
didn't see a lot of that. And I was
Yeah,
just,
no.
and it ends with her being electrocuted and not dying.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I should
I
have died.
don't
And
get
not
that
dying.
Yeah.
I'm guessing they want her to be a good guy in the third movie or something. That's the only thing I can think
Yeah.
of.
Because I just didn't want to kill somebody in the movie because nobody died in the whole movie.
Yeah, it was a little
felt like
strange.
weird
Just
that they
extras
were,
died.
pulling back from killing anybody in the movie.
Yeah.
Mm. It was I didn't like a lot of what they did. There was also a part where like when you talk about killing people, she throws these dudes off a roof onto a car and they slam down,
I thought
and
the
then they're
same
like,
thing.
"Whoa,
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
At the very
Honestly,
beginning.
man, what a fall!"
Yeah,
I,
when that
I was
happened-
like, is there a mattress under
That's
there?
what I was thinking. I thought there was a mattress there,
Oh, you
but there
didn't
was no
put one?
mattress.
Oh, so they should be
And
dead.
if there was
Yeah.
like that would have been kind of funny because it's a mall. So like
Yeah.
if she had just like taped them to a mattress and like here you guys go, like here are the bad guys, then I was like, oh, I see Wonder Woman's like her whole morality is let me not just destroy these guys.
Exactly.
But she did. But the movie decided that she didn't. The
Right.
movie was like, nah,
It would
they're
make
fine.
more
Yeah.
logical to them falling on it and then something soft, but their bodies hit that.
And they were
car.
wrapped
Yeah.
together. So
Yeah.
that's like if all four of us were to land on this car.
Yeah,
Yeah.
somebody
Break my
bleeding
back,
internally or
yeah.
dead,
Yeah.
like broken
But-
bones.
Definitely break my back.
From
Yeah.
the movie did establish its tone in that way, where it's like we're not going to show Wonder Woman being overly aggressive and just destroying these people. There was even a part where she like breaks a gun and she's like, I hate guns. And it's
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
oh, okay,
Make
so
it-
that's-
Yeah.
all right, here's a little morality play.
Yeah.
Let her know.
And these movies always like to zoom in on bullets, and then she like cuts the bullet. She grabbed the bullet with the rope. I'm
Yeah.
Like, bro,
Oh,
I didn't like that
this doesn't
okay.
look good.
This is the biggest part I wanted to talk about actually.
Oh.
The car sequence chase fight with the tanks and stuff.
Oh, okay.
I thought that was the silliest,
It was.
silliest thing.
Yeah.
Let me
thought
see
it
if I
was
can
really
even
good.
find it.
Especially like, come on, Black Panther had a really good car chase with him going after
Oh
the
my
cars.
God.
And then we get something like this. Like
Okay.
you saw, they had to see
Sure,
Black
what
Panther
was
to try to
happening?
do something better, but they came up with this
Yep.
thing, whatever.
I had here that slow motion running effect is awful because that's when
Yeah.
they started off.
Yeah.
She's running slow
Oh,
motion.
yeah,
and I was
that
like-
so
She's gliding.
bad.
I was like,
Yeah.
that's bad, but
Yeah.
okay, we'll leave it alone. And then from there, I go, oh, you got to be kidding.
Yeah.
He's kicking the gun because there's a
Yeah.
part where he's like on top of it
Yeah.
and he's kicking it. I'm like, I don't think he can do that. Whatever. He shouldn't be alive from the crash because he crashed onto the car
Mm.
in order to get onto there.
Mm.
And then there's the best part, which is the worst part, when she flings her rope, grabs onto a rocket, uses that
Yeah.
rocket
Oh,
for
flash
momentum,
rock. Yeah.
Oh.
and that slingshots her. And I guess this was them illustrating that she was losing her powers,
Yeah.
but she falls from the rope. And I
Yeah.
was like, that didn't
And she got
necessarily.
shot too.
Yeah,
Yeah.
she got shot.
She
So I
was
was like,
shot on the same arm.
I was like, I
that's why
guess
thought
they're
it
trying to
was.
show that, hey, like maybe this is her losing it, but it wasn't like well done because everything that scene was just so comical that I was shocked even that they had any sort of injuries because Steve Trevor was a regular ass dude
Yeah.
who's just on this car beating up people, getting into crashes and stuff. I was just like, what's happening? Like,
He probably was like, I'm already dead. I don't give a fuck.
Yeah, this is I want.
This is extra time. This is bonus time.
Yeah,
Like-
when he's kicking the gun, I was like, "What's your plan here? Like, you can't stop the gun." from shooting."
That's also because I was like, is he like trying to break the barrel
Yeah,
of the
it's not
gun?
a
Regular
Like,
gun,
it's
by the
metal,
way.
it's
This is
like-
a tank gun.
And
we're talking
kicking
about.
won't do anything. It was just a weird, just really weird.
Mm.
She also has like this tiara that completely unrelated, but the tiara batarang thing
Yeah.
that she does. I
Oh,
thought that was
yeah.
just like a really interesting addition to her weaponry. I was just like, oh, okay, I guess they were just
Yeah.
trying to come up with it.
They
But
didn't really introduce like a lot of extra weaponry that she has.
they
besides-
introduced
she
new
really-
powers.
What is it?
They introduced new powers
Oh.
though.
Oh yeah, the invisible plane.
Oh
thing.
yeah.
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 Oh, that was
Plane,
just.
yeah.
They just
That was-
wrote themselves into a corner and then they're like, let's get out of there.
There's history in the comics of her
What
having an
happened?
invisible
Yeah.
jet.
Yeah.
But
I've
the
seen
way
that.
that she conjures this invisibility,
Mm.
it's like that's
Oh,
an
yeah, just do-
awesome
yeah,
power
Yeah,
to
yeah.
use for anything else.
Yeah,
Like,
she never does it again
Yeah.
after that.
It
So.
just randomly happened.
Yeah.
Like,
It's-
she never used it before. She never used it after in the
Yeah,
future
right.
DC
Yeah.
movies.
Exactly. Yeah.
and
yeah.
invisibility is a great power.
Yeah,
like, and
that's-
if you can do it to a jet, you could do it to yourself.
Yeah.
I'm almost certain of that.
Yeah, I would
but
imagine.
she was
Yeah,
just
I
like,
also like how
"Hmm."
they stole a jet too. Yeah.
I
just
was
for him
actually
to fly.
confused during that
Yeah.
scene. I didn't know what was
Yeah,
happening.
like, I thought she owned like the hangar because like she has
Ah.
no money.
Same, I thought
Yeah,
so too.
but then
Oh,
she ended
yeah.
up stealing it. I was like, why? Like, why
Yeah,
would you
what-
steal the plane?
No, that was
They
that
should
was
wrote
their
in that She
idea.
has a hangar. She has a lot of money.
Yeah.
There's also
She can borrow her own plane. or
the
something.
other power. I said I love mid-movie newly discovered powers. The flashback lasso. There is a part where she can lasso someone and then show
yeah.
them a flashback
Yeah.
or like a memory of hers.
Mm.
It was just there's a lot of stuff like that where the movie is giving her new things to do. They're retreading old ground with the sacrifice. They're completely tonally different. And it's just like why isn't this movie more focused for all the time they had and for the success of the first movie? I was just so let down at what came of this
They
movie.
need a simple
Yeah.
story. Almost every single simple story or whatever does well. Every time they try to add a lot of crap into it, most of the time it doesn't really do that good.
Yeah.
You know.
The
So-
the lasso thing, like when it's flashback, it's also not even her memory too. It's
Yeah.
just an event
Someone
that
else's
happened.
memory.
Yeah. It's just something that happened.
Oh,
And it's
yeah,
showing
with
her.
the armor.
Yeah.
Oh
Um,
yeah.
And it was weird because she just suddenly had that armor on.
Yeah. I
Because
guess
she didn't put it on. She put it on when she was flying.
Yeah.
And why
Yeah.
wasn't that
There
armor
must have been
like
a lot
if they
of problems
wanted
with this thing.
if they wanted her to fly, why not let that armor be her flying?
Yeah, it has
Like,
wings. Yeah.
It has wings, and that would be even more sense of you catch the wind
wind,
or
yeah.
whatever, and you
Yeah.
glide with it. Because then I was like, oh, maybe they're gonna put that together.
Hmm.
But she's flying using a weird propeller, and you can't propel yourself from the side because that's not how it works. But she uses that, and then she does that, and
Mm.
I was just like, well, if they had established the wingsuit, put her in the wingsuit for the final battle. She then jumps up high and then glides with the wingsuit into
Yeah.
battle, but she does her normal flight and then she appears in the wingsuit suddenly. I guess sometime in the sky she changed clothes.
Yeah, I guess
Yeah.
she
And-
went back home,
And-
changed clothes, and flew back.
Or she
yeah.
had it with her in her pocket, which
Yeah.
we didn't see.
A giant metal suit.
Or
Yeah.
maybe, like, she finds another jet,
Yeah.
invisible jet. You
So-
want more of the suit.
Yeah, so I was saying, I wish they did more with the suit because she kind of used it as like a shield, and then she just ripped the wings off and everything, and then that was it. Like you don't really show the suit off on like how you can use it or anything.
It-
Like, it looks design's pretty cool.
It was a really
it's-
cool
it's
design.
Yeah.
It seemed like it was more of a visual, oh, that's cool moment,
Yeah.
or let's, merchandising
Oh yeah,
with that.
that's true.
As compared to it having any practical use, especially because of its sudden inclusion into the story and its sudden relevance into the story. And they could have easily have even established that suit coming from one of the Amazonians that we had come to know in the previous movies or in the
Mm.
I guess the prologue of the movie, like you know how
Yeah.
like they had that big tournament, maybe like you know the winner of the tournament gets this and that's why she wanted it, or you know it's just there's small things like that when I'm watching a movie always bother me because
Yeah.
it shows me that whoever was writing the movie wasn't writing like something comprehensive and using all the elements that they had
Mhm.
established previously. It's almost like they're writing to meet checkpoints. Like
Yeah.
they're like, we have to have this,
Yeah.
we have
Yeah.
to
That's a
have
good
that,
point, actually.
we have to have
Mhm.
that, we have
Yeah.
to have Cheetah, we have to have a bad guy, there has to be a monologue, there has to be a Skybeam, you know?
Yeah.
And it's just like none of this is connected or makes sense. There has to be a sacrifice
Yeah.
for Steve Trevor.
yeah.
Mm.
It's
'Cause
just
what I was saying
annoying.
about when you're saying about that is like they did write that suit in because I think that's gonna be a part of Wonder Woman 3 because the end credits scene when they introduce the lady,
The
It's just-
original Wonder Woman.
yeah,
Mm.
but her name
100%.
is different. Like they mentioned.
I didn't
her
watch
name.
the end credit scene. This
Oh,
is
yeah.
no.
I didn't
No,
watch
no,
the end
oh,
credits.
yeah,
scene.
After the movie
yeah.
ended, I just wanted it done.
Yeah.
I was
Yeah,
like,
it's-
oh,
it's
all right. Well,
a lady walking, and then it reveals that it was the lady in the flashback of that had the suit on.
Yeah.
It's just the same person, so I think that's introducing Wonder Woman 3 and her character in the next
Mm.
one.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
And
so
that woman
that
is-
suit was definitely a check mark to be reintroduced.
so they can
Yeah.
have it.
The wings
Yeah.
got destroyed immediately though.
Yeah, and
It showed up and then it just the suit was pointless actually.
Yeah.
entirely.
You
This
think it'd be
is
stronger, right?
yeah,
Yeah.
because she held off all of mankind because
Yeah,
that's what
yeah.
they said. They
It's-
literally said all of mankind couldn't do it, and I was like, well, a woman with claws
She
that
ripped it
just
apart.
got those powers is
Yeah.
just able to rip it apart. Okay.
Yeah.
And
exactly.
also, how did she become the cheetah? Because she used her one wish already.
Yeah,
That
I
guy
guess-
suddenly was able to give people more than one
Yeah,
wish.
yeah, so make it
That's
And
true,
sense.
she,
that makes
she
sense.
offered Wonder Woman another wish later at the end
And you know,
during her monologue.
because this movie's so crazy, right? This movie could have been over in the first act when he wanted to beat the gemstone.
I was
He could have
just-
turned into a giant stone
Yeah.
and fucked himself hard.
Dude,
Yeah.
I was just thinking that he could have easily have become a stone.
Yeah.
Like, I was like, oh, I thought there was a part of me that thought maybe that would have happened. And then like you know that's showing the consequence of it. I didn't realize he was gonna be the overarching villain because I thought Cheetah was gonna
Yeah,
be.
same.
So I was just
Okay,
like,
yeah.
you know, he stole it. He's you know evil or
Mm.
whatever. So this is his comeuppance. I thought
Mm.
that's what it was gonna be.
Yeah.
But it disappeared.
It is
He
a
became
trickster
it.
stone. It could have just tricked him right there.
Yeah, and that's
Yeah,
why I
he becomes a
expected.
stone.
Exactly, right? Because usually with wishes, there's always some kind of like consequence or something, right?
Yeah.
At least in some things that I've seen, like Kazam.
Even-
remember Kazam?
No, actually, I haven't seen Kazam. Even in like something like Fairly Odd Parents, like the wishes
Yeah.
always have some sort of backfire, or,
Yeah,
like you know, where it's
sure.
like, oh, I wish it was Christmas every day, and like
Yeah.
now you're tired of Christmas. Like
Yeah.
I thought it was like something like that. It-
I did like when he was getting sick though. Like he's getting so corrupted, but it's also killing his body,
Yeah.
it's destroying him. Like in the inside
Simple as, don't you wish we had good health?
Yeah.
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 You know?
Yeah.
You know, because he did that for everybody in every part of the movie.
Yeah.
He
Like
could have done
Yeah.
it any time, right?
Yeah.
And you know, like
he's
but-
waiting till the very end.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Don't you
After he
wish
did the wicked
like?
death.
Yeah, he
Yeah.
broadcast that to the whole world. He took everybody's health.
And I also am confused. Like there would have been at least one person to have wished for all this stuff to end, because like. There was a
Yeah.
lot of war, a lot of
true,
like
yeah.
rioting. There would have been at least one very scared person. It's like, I just wish this would all go back to normal.
Yeah.
There would have been one.
it's
Not
not-
one, just one.
This
Yeah.
one, right? You
Yeah.
think like everybody is like shitheads pretty much in the world,
Did he
right?
choose not to give him the wish though?
His son?
Hmm?
Because
Did
his
he
son
choose
wished.
not to grant it?
Oh yeah, can
Yeah,
he
he could
choose?
choose not to grant a
He-
wish,
he
I
could?
think, right?
His
I
son
don't
was the
know.
most
Yeah.
insightful person in the entire movie.
Oh yeah.
Like there was a part where the one of the investigators is like, "You're a loser," and like the son started crying, and it's like, "You're a loser who's running a Ponzi scheme." I was like, "The son knows what a Ponzi scheme
Yeah,
is."
yeah.
Smart kid.
Like I didn't even know what a Ponzi. I like had to look. I was like, "What's a Ponzi scheme?" Like just confused on how the son was so insightful in this. There's
Yeah.
another part where like he's like, "He's here right now! Oh my god!" And like
Yeah.
the son, I guess, was outside the door. I was like, "Man, this kid is
Yeah.
he
Yeah.
is
He's there.
he is a perfect like just plot device of
Yeah.
knowing and like
Yeah.
letting you down."
Yeah. Also, why is the kid just out in the public at the end and just running through all the?
I don't know how he got there.
Yeah.
They broke into the building.
Oh yeah.
I guess he managed to sneak out of the building all of those floors too.
I thought too that
Uh,
his dad and he was in two different countries. That's what I thought too.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah,
I-
I got it so quickly. Yeah.
Yeah,
no,
like,
he
how
was
did-
in a different country
Yeah.
because
right?
Wonder Woman flew somewhere
Yeah.
Yeah.
to wherever this secret base is,
Yeah.
and then he leaves the secret base and just walks outside, and his son's
His son is
there.
Like,
And
I don't understand
Well,
that
Not
at
only
all.
that, but
No,
she
it's-
defeated Cheetah in the dark, and
Yeah.
then
it was bright.
yeah, it was
bright
Yeah.
daylight.
day,
Yeah,
not
so-
too
No,
long
yeah, so it has to
later.
be in two different parts of the country. But no, he took the helicopter back to wherever they were. Because remember, he took the helicopter, the president's helicopter,
Mm.
to go where the base was.
Okay.
Yeah, but he took it back because if we watch it again, the helicopter's in the background.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I didn't notice that.
I
should've
bet
at
that
least
I bet
showed
the helicopter is
Yeah.
CGI. I bet I go
Probably,
back
yeah.
and watch
Oh, yeah,
that,
gotta be,
and then
yeah.
someone's
Yeah.
like, "Wait, how did he get here?" And it's like,
Yeah.
just put it in post. Put it in post.
Yeah.
Yes. I also thought too, like in the end, when he's acting crazy and she was talking to him, so he realized he's being a bad guy. I thought he was gonna like disappear to his son,
Yeah,
right? But
Same,
he
I thought it
just
was
ran.
gonna-
When he ran, I was like, "Oh shit, that's kind of funny." Like, he just stopped everything and just started jetting, running.
Yeah.
So that was
So
kind
I'm
of
outta
funny.
here.
Yeah. Unintentional humor. I
It was-
guess.
Oh yeah, that's also you bring up humor. I don't think this movie was very funny in any parts really. I feel like I laughed at maybe 2 moments. and that was
Yeah.
it.
Was probably laughing at how ridiculous it is.
I loved a lot of ridiculous stuff. There was one part I thought was kind of funny. Everything's going on in the streets, like like shit's hitting the fan, the riots, blah blah blah.
Mm.
And there's a part where there's a police officer like, "What do you want me to do? Help me!"
Oh, yeah, that's funny.
I was like, "Oh, I like that."
Yeah.
Like, I was like, "That's just a really red
That's
joke."
true. Yeah.
Out of nowhere, it was like so random, out of nowhere. I was like, "This is a good joke."
That's a good
Yeah.
joke. Yeah.
Um,
I remember that. Yeah.
I think that was like the only part. There's a part with like Steve Trevor and he's trying on clothes and stuff. Like
Yeah.
that was a pretty lame montage. But there's
Yeah.
one part where he's talking about like the phone book and he's like this is future proof.
Yeah.
And I was just like, okay.
Oh, okay.
I was like,
Yeah,
all right,
yeah.
I see what you guys are
I mean,
doing.
There's
Like,
phone books today, but I don't know who's buying them. But
No,
there's phone
exactly.
books.
it was just like a nice little, fish out of water. I'm
Yeah.
from the past
Yeah,
joke.
they
Yeah.
did that again, but
They
with
did
him
again.
and
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which I don't think it was
Yeah.
done very good with him. I think it's
No.
done better in the first one.
I actually don't think he should have been in the movie.
Yeah, I don't think
I
so.
think entirely his entire character should have been omitted from the movie.
Yeah.
He serves almost no purpose beyond being
Mm.
Wonder Woman's wish
Mm.
to show us that wishes are something that exist
Yeah.
in this world
Mm.
and et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But his sacrifice didn't work. He doesn't have any sort of abilities, and because we're not in a setting of World War One or whatever, where he has like he's actively a pilot, whatever. He's just
Silver.
kind of there. He's
Yeah.
like he's
Can't do
walking
anything.
behind her, like in that scene in the White House where
Yeah.
they start shooting and he like hides behind
Yeah.
her. I was just like, he shouldn't
He
even
is-
just be
yeah, he
here.
should be there.
Yeah.
Like he doesn't serve much of a narrative purpose to
What-
me that was good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What it shows me after seeing him in this movie is like you can't make a Wonder Woman movie without Chris Pine. That's what I got
Seems that
from
way.
it. You know, like,
They'll find a way of bringing him back again. It's
Yeah.
his son or something.
Yeah.
Like
Probably weird.
it's like, oh, you look just like your father.
They
Like,
stuck together, right? So
Yeah.
what if he's
Oh,
pregnant?
yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So what if he's back, right?
she had a kid, like in she didn't hide the kid from the world or something like that. And
Yeah.
all the new ones.
Because I have no idea if Wonder Woman ever has a kid in the comics. I don't know about that.
Me either. There's Wonder Girl, but I don't know if there's a relation. I think
Oh,
she's
yeah.
just another Themysciran.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Whatever
But-
they're called, yeah.
Ultimately, not my favorite
yeah.
movie.
I guess one last point before we wrap it up, which
Hmm.
is, how do you guys feel about the Spider-Man 2 ripoff or her losing her power?
Oh, I didn't even. Yeah,
Um,
you're right.
Huh.
They stole from Spider-Man 2 and they stole from Amazing Spider-Man 2 with
Yeah.
Electro and Cheetah being, the nerdy klutz.
Sure.
The losing the power I mentioned earlier, it just doesn't work. Doesn't
Yeah,
work.
It doesn't work
Doesn't
for
feel
me.
it.
I feel like her losing her power had no payoff at the end because I don't think she really realized anything. Unlike Spider-Man 2, where it's him struggling with, do I need these powers? Do I want to be this person?
Exactly.
Yeah. Mm.
And she doesn't win at the end. She doesn't win like the fight. Like
Yeah.
she kind of just happens into a win by electrocuting Cheetah, and then she
She's
goes
actually
to
getting her ass kicked.
Yeah.
yeah, exactly. And then
Really
she
doing
goes
much
to stop Max Gold during his like yelling, and she can't use her whip into it
Yeah.
for some reason.
It's her only
Even though
one
she
for
was
it,
able to use it to grab lightning
Yeah,
and
yeah.
propel herself and all that, but
The wishes were too strong.
I guess.
Like clapping her.
she wasn't able to do any of that. So I was just like, okay,
Just
so
win.
she then I don't know what happens, but knocks her onto the floor.
The win.
Was
The
it the
wind.
wind?
Yeah,
Yeah, it's the wind.
She was-
So
Yeah,
she's
putting
knocked
much
into the
pressure.
floor, and then she does like the single tear. I'm sad, like shit's not going well for me.
Eye drops.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then she gives her speech, and I was just like, well, she didn't beat anybody in this entire movie besides random guys with guns, and
Yeah.
I was like, that's just not the way you want to follow up on Wonder Woman 1. Even if you didn't like the CGI fight at the end, at least the stakes of her fighting was so heightened. The scene with her stopping all those bullets are very dramatic and cool. But like in this, there's never a moment where I'm looking at Wonder Woman and I'm like, damn, she's a badass. I never felt that. And that was kind of the biggest disappointment for me. Because even if everything is cheesy, right? Even if I don't like the overall plot and the use of the villains, etc., if you can at least show the main character being a badass, then I can accept it in that regard and go, that was cool.
Yeah,
you know?
that's a good
Remember
point.
that.
I felt like she was a badass in Wonder Woman 1.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Versus Superman. But in this movie, I felt like this all looks cheesy. This is too cartoony for me. I can't buy any of this.
Yeah.
There's
There's
In
a
the
lot of moments of like slow motion and then her just flying in the air.
Yeah, it's like
Goofy slow motion.
yeah.
it's like, you know, a regular motion, then it goes into slow motion. Like she's trying to do the Zack Snyder kind of thing.
Yeah.
Which
And
Zack
then
Snyder
didn't
can-
do it well.
Yeah, didn't do it well.
Didn't
do it well.
Yeah. In the first, like you said, in the first one, when she like decided to go and it's called No Man's Land, and when she got up and went over and did all the fighting to get the troops to move forward, that was badass.
It was really
And
cool.
you can really feel it there. But yeah, in this one, you didn't get the sense that she
Yeah,
was
No,
like,
there was hardly any action in this movie. I mean, when there was action, it wasn't anything.
It wasn't good
it wasn't
looking,
good,
actually.
yeah. It was
either.
stuff that
There's no
was
hand
like
to hand.
you guys said, it's been redone, but we've seen it done better, and it wasn't like she borrowed from a lot of places, but she didn't. Patty Jenkins didn't really do a good job
Yeah.
in making it like new and fresh or reinvented or something.
And that'll be my last comment for this movie. I feel as if Wonder Woman 1984 is a movie that was plucked from a different time. Like, it was not necessarily from the 80s, but from an earlier day of comic
Early
book.
2000.
Yeah,
Yeah,
you know,
I
like
agree.
almost as if they hadn't realized that we as an audience have become more sophisticated
Yeah.
in our viewing, and
We expect more.
we expect more,
Yeah.
and we're not willing to accept this sort of like slosh or whatever you can say about it. It just felt like it was trying its best to be a movie that already exists, and we didn't want that.
Yeah.
And I was just like, why not give us a fresh Wonder Woman story instead of putting a coat of Wonder Woman paid over an early 2000s Spider-Man
a lot of
movie or
cheese all
something.
over it.
Yeah.
No,
I'd be
Yeah.
surprised if this was like an early script and then they just pulled it out. And were
Yeah, 'cause,
like,
"Okay, let's do this.
It felt that way the entire time. I was just like, the effects look like it's early 2000s. The plot feels like it's early 2000s. The tone feels like it's early 2000s.
Yeah.
And for some people, that's fine. They like those movies. But for us who have seen 30 plus
Yeah.
of these movies from Marvel and from DC, at this point, we don't want that anymore. At least
Yeah.
I don't want that
Yeah,
anymore.
this is like X-Men tier quality.
Yeah.
Yeah. So,
Yeah.
not the worst movie I've seen, but it's a movie from another time and a movie that I've figuratively outgrown.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the thing is, like, Spider-Man 1 and 2 has a lot of, like, cheesy stuff to it, right? But you can see that Spider-Man is a badass, right? Especially in the first one at the end when Goblin and him are fighting. That was a brutal scene.
Yeah.
Peter Parker's getting the hell kicked out of him. That was for a Spider-Man movie. Like, he's bleeding, his mask got ripped off. That's
There were some stakes. Like, you
Yeah.
could still see the villain or the hero as vulnerable
Yeah.
too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
I feel like
that's
he could die.
you
Yeah.
could. And
Mm.
that was something that in this movie too, even with her little grays,
She
at
would just
no
get a little
point
flesh wound on the shoulder.
Yeah,
Yeah.
at no point did I ever feel
Mm.
Wonder Woman wasn't going to succeed. And that should have at least allowed you to go, well, we know she's going to win at the end. She's Wonder Woman.
Yeah.
Let's just show her really going all in. And I never felt like that happened.
Yeah.
So
Exactly. I never felt like that too. You
Yeah.
didn't feel like she was in danger. You always felt like
Yeah.
she was gonna get her way out of it in probably, I guess, in this movie the most easiest way. You know.
Yeah, I agree.
through a
Okay.
speech.
So I guess with that, I guess we can move on to scores.
You guys
And
go first. Yeah.
Yeah, wrap it up and wrap it up after that. We should you go first.
It's like from
Go first.
1 to 10 or
Yeah,
something, or
yeah,
1 to
out of
5?
10.
Out of 10. Okay.
Yeah.
0 to 10 or
1 to
One.
10.
Out of
You
10.
Still
can't
won't be
use
using
you can't use 0.
It's not a
Yeah,
zero.
it's not a 0.
Yeah.
I guess I could give it a 5.
5
Maybe
out
a
of 10.
4
Really
and a
low.
half.
I wasn't
It
expecting
wasn't that bad.
I was
I-
expecting that low. Wow.
I think
Probably
I'll.
it's not a 6 or a 7.
Yeah.
It's got to be a 5.
I feel like for
Or
me,
5.
it's either a 5 or a 6 out of 10. I want to give it a 6 out of 10, but there's nothing that's telling me this is above average. Like, this is the most, like, average as it
Yeah.
got. Like, I didn't hate the movie, but because my standards for these movies are so heightened, because we've had so much great ones, even from her own franchise,
Yeah, she
that
did a good.
at this
first
point, I'm
Wonder
like,
Woman.
this is just so blah. It's a
Yeah.
5 out of 10 for me.
out of 10. I would do 6 out of 10. I think it's just a very like average movie. I can't give it more like praise or anything. I felt like it missed a lot of marks, and it could have done a lot more because we expect a lot more from these movies now.
Yeah.
So after watching, I left with just disappointment.
Mhm.
So I would go 6 out of 10.
6 out of 10. Is a 7 a C? Right.
7. So yeah,
Yeah,
7's like
above average.
it's above average.
average.
A 5 is like average. Then
Probably maybe a 6.5 or 7. Because the reason I'm doing that is because she did make a good first movie, Patty Jenkins, and maybe because she hasn't made a lot of movies, because this might be her third movie or fourth movie, you know, maybe so she's pulling from a lot of earlier work. I don't know why she is, but it seems like it after watching this movie, you know, like she's not trying to be, you know, I guess original. So maybe a 6.5. Yeah.
that's fair.
Yeah.
Fair.
I will, but you know, just because I feel like I did crap on the movie, I will give it some love. I think Pedro Pascal's performance is great all
Yeah.
throughout, even the very
Best,
hammy
yeah.
ending.
Yeah.
I do like Gal Gadot. I'm not one of those like anti Gal Gadot like one
No,
of
I
the
love
peoples.
everything she's in so
I
far.
think she's good. I think her performance is a little flat, but you know that's just the nature of the movie and some of the script that can go into some of the directing. But I won't really you know nitpick too much on that.
Yeah.
And I do like that they attempted to have a little bit of fun. And I can
Yeah.
tell that they were having fun on set.
Mm.
And I can tell that in the construction of this movie, it wasn't malicious. A lot
Yeah.
of the times these comic movies can feel like written by studio or something.
Yeah.
Like I could tell that there was genuinely an idea that was here that they tried to flesh out and do like a fun Wonder Woman movie.
Yeah.
And it didn't succeed in the way I would have wanted, but it wasn't awful.
Yeah, that's fair. I agree with that.
Yeah, it wasn't awful. I enjoyed watching it. You know, like but we've seen better movies. You know, so
I also watched it at 3:00 in the morning. So
Oh.
that
Oh,
also,
just pissing you off at that
yeah,
point.
that kind of that affected
Yeah.
me.
maybe if I watch it again, maybe my score might go up or maybe down. I don't know.
Yeah.
But like everyone did a good job though, performance wise. At least the main ones, you know, like Pedro and Gal Gadot. I think she did a better job in the first movie than this one.
Mhm.
Like you said, it's a little flat her performance, but maybe it was the direction she got or something. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know. But
Yeah.
Pedro definitely is a reason why
Which
it's a
is-
6.5.
So you got a 6.5?
Yeah. I guess 6.5. All right.
Yeah.
So the average is
That's fair.
5.6.
5.6. Wow, that went down. I
Yeah,
was
well,
not expecting that.
What if I give it a 7? Because I did enjoy it. I liked it.
I think we could do like in the middle, just a 6 out of 10 for like it's an average movie. That's what it was.
We'll give it that.
I guess we can give
I'll
it
give you that.
6.10. I mean, not 6 6 out of 10.
6
Yeah,
out of 10.
yeah.
Yeah.
So I guess with that, we'll wrap it up here. Hope you liked the video. Please subscribe and give it a like, and we'll see you next time.
Peace.
Peace.